Yes.
And I like conservative values, and I think everybody here does. And I don't think there's any doubt, shower, you're running your staff to death in this election coming up, it's a duck we're doing at this point.
I'm not going to count on that.
No, I know you're not. You obviously got it. I guess what I want to know is I not only want limited government, I want a smaller government. I want $23 billion, not $1 million, that the Department of Energy spends for what? And what do we get out of it?
Department of Education.
Department of Education. There are a lot of them, and we're adding more and more bureaucrats on all the time. You even mentioned you want to put another bureaucrat on to oversee treaties. Okay, how do we cut the government? You're going to make a commitment to us that you're going to try to not just limit government, but cut it.
Yeah. And that's the one commitment I made and none of my opponents have made. And I can make it on the basis of record. I co-sponsored legislation that cut several different ways. We tried to get anything through. We started out at a 3% across the board, except defense. Budget cut, every budget area. And that was to say, let's get out of the political fighting that goes on with it. Let's not let that be used as a leverage to stop anything. Let's say across the board, every department there, don't care what you do to do it, but you've got to cut 3% out of your budget.
3% is...
Well, no, and let me tell you what I did. Now, you could do 10%, but realistically, you're not going to get 10% cut out of members of Congress.
25, let's try 25, let's try 30%.
Wonderful. I'd vote for it. I'd vote for it. But the issue is, we offered, with Pelosi sitting at the Speaker's roster, 3%. That wasn't given a hearing. We offered 2%, 1%, 0.5%, 1/4%. None of that was accepted.
Obviously, it's not going to happen until we get more conservatives in.
And if we get in, yeah, but that's the way we go.
New president in, that's going to be a little more conservative. But
we go and say to the, if we realize you gotta do what is possible. 25% isn't possible. But we can say every member of our constituents are cutting 5 to 10% out of their budget. If they're still employed, they're cutting it out. Okay, State Department, all of you State Department secretaries, you gotta cut 10% across the board, except defense. That's the approach we take.
well, as a small businessman in Illinois County here, I've had to cut more than 25% out of my budget over the past few years. So why shouldn't I expect my government to do a similar thing? I guess what I'm looking for, if I'm going to vote for you, I'm going to vote for conservative one way or the other. But I want a commitment from you and anybody else, including the next president of the United States, hopefully, that they're willing to do that. They're willing to go against the norm, which is expand government, and actually cut it. I mean, cut it significantly.
Well, I made that commitment, and I've shown it in my voting record, and I'll do it again. But I want you to know that if I don't get 25% cut out, and I got a chance to vote for 5%, I'll vote for 5%.
Oh, and I understand.
I'll vote for 1% too.
And you're not going to get 25% all at one time. I understand that, but they did in 1920. I think the federal government was reduced by 40%. We're in 20s now, so it's happened in the past.
Yeah.
And it's going to take some guts and some really to support it. It's going to take somebody who's got to stand up and be able to do it, including the president who's going to push for it.
And I agree. Sadly, if we even had just the government we had back there, it'd be a different story. Right now, it's huge. We talked about departments of state, energy, education. Education should be there's no constitutional mandate.
Which brings one quick question. As a congressman, what kind of a budget do you have as a congressman for your staff? For your
1.3 million.
1.3 million.
That included everything, mailings, transportation, my staff, both district and Washington staff. And it was based upon the distance I had to travel to get to Washington. So a guy from California would have a larger, he would probably have 1.7. I had 1.3.
So we've got $1 million over the congressman and $455 million.
Sure, we'll do that. But then the taxpayers also have to say, we expect little or nothing from government. We're not asking for it for ourselves. Because, bottom line, your representation will be one person in the secretary. So the 5,000 letters that come in an average week, plus emails on top of that, don't expect them to be answered.